Hey kids, today's assignment is doing some observational drawing. Over the next week, I'm going to give you several drawing assignments, but we're going to start with something very simple. We're going to draw a cube. The reason for drawing a cube is it's a very basic shape. I'm going to show you what I'm drawing right now. There, hopefully you saw that cube. It's basically a box, and you guys will be drawing boxes of various shapes and sizes, but everybody in every household has a box of some sort, whether it's a cereal box or an Amazon box or whatever it is. I just want you guys to draw the form, okay? So let's talk about these terms. Shape is two-dimensional. Shape is a rectangle, okay? It has four sides. They could be equal sides, which makes a rectangular square, or they don't have to be all the same size, right? Form is a 3D object, so it goes back in space. So you have X, Y coordinates and a Z coordinate where it goes back in space. This is real life. All right, so what your job is to take something that is in 3 dimensions and render it in a 2-dimensional space of a piece of paper. The way we do that is we analyze the light that is on the object and shade it appropriately to give it the illusion of depth. There's other things that we're going to use going forward, including perspective, proportion, and things like that. However, today we're just going to talk about shading. So here you have to have light to have shading. So what you do is you analyze the form and you say, where's the light hitting it the most perpendicularly, straight on. So on my cube, I'll show it to you again. If you take a look at the top has the most light hitting it. So I'm going to leave that be as far as the shading goes. Then I'm going to add a midtone to the sides, and then I'm going to put shadows on the side that is getting the least amount of light. In addition, we're going to add some cast shadows where you see the cube is blocking the light that's coming from whatever surfaces it's on. And we have some deep shadows that are right underneath the cube. And we want to make those very dark to make sure that it's not a floating cube. So here we go. So I'm going to start drawing. I'm taking a look at it from this angle. You might have yours at a slightly different angle. It will make it easier for you if you only have one light source. In this room we have many light sources, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but one light source will make this task a lot easier for you. All right, so I'm going to start out by drawing the form. Okay, so the way to do that on a cube is I'm going to take whatever lines are like up and down, perpendicular lines, straight up and down, and I'm going to go ahead and draw the front one. And then I'm going to draw the base of it, which goes back in space just a little bit, almost like a V. All right, I'm just going to sketch very light. Very important, when you're starting to draw very light just in case you have to erase. All right, so now I'm going to draw some of these other lines that go back into space and connect those. And I'm looking at this, I'm kind of at a 45-degree angle here. And something like that. Then I want to add the top. So this, again, there's a little bit of a curve to this one. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'll reference it back, right? So that's basically the form of the cube. Now what we want to do is we want to give it some depth by adding shading. So the light is coming this way. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to label this. Okay. So now I know that the top has the most light. So I'm going to start adding some shading on this side. There's a lot of different techniques for shading. I'm going to use what's known as cross-hatching because it'll be quicker for this demonstration. But there are a lot of different methods for shading. And you don't want to do too much with this mid-tone, okay? Just kind of like a light shade for that, all right? Now what we want to do is we want to add the shadow areas, okay? You can see that this looks a lot like the mid-tone, but remember this, it's much, much easier to make things darker when you're drawing than to make things lighter, right? So that's why you start nice and light. When I take a look at this, it actually appears to be darkest, like right in here. So I'm going to add a little bit more shading this way. And I'm not trying to draw on a curve here, it's just kind of happening. Okay. You guys can get as detailed as you want for this. I'm not going to go super into detail. When you are drawing your boxes, I do not want you to draw the decorations that are on it, meaning the Amazon smile that might be on the Amazon box, or the lettering, or labels. Like you could show me where a label would be and just kind of draw the shape of the label, but don't try to draw everything that's on it. Okay? What we're looking for is just shape, form, and indicating the light source by shading it. All right? So now we have here we have a highlight, just here. I'm going to write that down, highlight. So that's on to that surface. This surface has a mid-tone. Mid-tone. You might not be able to see these, okay? Highlight, mid-tone, and this is shadow. Those are terms that we're going to use a lot this year, especially when we get into Photoshop, start editing photos. You know, we're going to adjust these highlights, midtones, and shadows. Okay. So now we're going to go a little bit further. I see it's very dark right down here. So we're going to add some more dark right there. I might have overdone that a little bit. And what this is called a cast shadow, where you're going to see that it blocks light from behind it. So I'm going to start to add that. My cast shadow looks very fuzzy because these lights are kind of everywhere. So everybody's cast shadow might look a little bit, different. Hopefully you guys can see this on your monitors. Okay, I'm not trying to make it scribbly, just kind of ended up that way. Actually, my cast shadow right back here is a little darker than my cube. So I'm analyzing the shadows based on what I'm seeing. That's the most important thing. I'm not analyzing this based on what I know about drawing. I'm actually just kind of trying to render what I'm seeing. It might not, when you're drawing, it might not seem like you're doing the right thing. Okay, and that's about it. This does have some other little details. There's this little thing here. But generally speaking, that's my cube. I might add a little bit back here because there is that curve. All right, so I'm going to label this cast shadow. All right, now all of you should have access to some kind of paper. Maybe it's printer paper, maybe it's in a sketchbook, whatever it is. You're going to use that, and pencils. Again, if you have some art pencils, that's great. If you don't, any pencil will work. In the classroom, we've even used golf pencils, which are those little cheap, little tiny things. So you can still do this, all right? When you draw your cube or your box, I need you to draw it and use almost the whole paper when you do that. That's very important. Last year, this is something I forgot. Sometimes it helps when you're drawing, draw a little bit of a border around it this is a very long piece of paper, so I'm shortening it. That helps you kind of frame your things. So these are the things that you need. You need to draw the shape. You need to draw the form where it goes back in 3D space. You need to indicate where the main source of light is, and you need to make sure that you have a highlight, midtone, shadow, and cast shadow. There is another thing that we're going to talk about next, and that's reflected light, but I'll save that for our next drawing. Okay? Thank you very much.